Has anyone ever said, "You're too emotional"? I used to get that all the time. I tended to wear my emotions on my sleeve, sort of the classic goth emo, but without the jet black hair and the giant crosses. I saw being emotional as a sign of vulnerability and authenticity. But the truth was, I was just a big pushover. And that's not to say that I'm unemotional today or I'm a complete stoic. It's just that I've learned the art of emotional control. And today I want to teach you how you can be in charge of your emotions instead of letting them drive you. Here's a question for you. What's the purpose of an emotion? Why do we get angry? Why do we get sad or happy or jealous? What purpose from a behavioral psychology or evolutionary process do human emotions serve? Now, most of them are part of an old survival system that don't necessarily serve us, at least like they used to. Our emotions are a function of the brain, and the brain's primary job is to keep you alive. And our emotions help us survive by facilitating communication, forming connections, reacting quicker to danger, and engaging in activities that give us purpose and meaning. Our emotions allow us to communicate powerfully without words, helping us understand others by building strong bonds. Our species has only survived by our ability to cooperate and form relationships, and these have been driven by our emotions. Emotions also guide our decision making by helping us weigh the options and create stronger memories so that we can learn and grow and adapt. Our emotions motivate us to achieve, they push us towards our goal, and they help us navigate the complexities of relationships because let's face it, relationships are complex. And they help us by keeping us connected and thriving. Now, an emotion can also keep us stuck in old patterns by reinforcing behaviors that feel familiar and safe, even if those behaviors are unproductive or harmful. When we experience stress, fear, or discomfort, our brain often defaults into the well-worn neural pathways that lead us to repeat past actions, doing the same thing over and over again, hoping that we're going to get a different result. For instance, if responding to stress with avoidance or anger provides you with a temporary relief in the past, we might continue to use these ineffective strategies in the present. Our emotional responses are deeply ingrained and can trigger automatic reactions, preventing us from exploring new, healthier ways of coping. The cycle creates a comfort zone of predictability, and that makes it difficult to break free and adopt new, more positive behaviors. To change the patterns, we need to consciously recognize our emotional triggers and intentionally choose different responses. And we do this by learning the art of emotional control. So how do we learn the art of emotional control? I'm going to give you 3 things that you need to focus on in order to develop emotional control. But before I do, do me a favor, boop the like button, share this with somebody that you know could use it. And if you're not already a subscriber, click that button too. It really helps. It costs you nothing, and yet it's a big thing that you can do to support this channel. And I sincerely appreciate it. Like I said, our emotions are just functions of the brain, and the part of the brain that's mainly responsible for our emotions and regulates our emotions is called the limbic system. It's a group of structures that are right in the middle of the brain. Here's a quick rundown of the limbic system. First, there's the amygdala. It's a little almond-shaped part, and it's key for processing emotions like fear and anger, pleasure, and it helps us react to emotional stimuli, especially those tied to survival. It's what triggers our fight or flight. And then you got the hypothalamus. This small region controls the autonomic nervous system, and the endocrine system plays a big part in regulating our emotional responses by releasing hormones into our body. Then you got the thalamus. The thalamus is like a relay station. It processes sensory information and it sends it to the right areas of the brain, including those that involve our emotional responses. Next up is the singular gyrus. It's fun to say, singular gyrus. This part of the brain helps you regulate emotions like pain, and it predicts and helps you avoid negative outcome. And then you got the prefrontal cortex. Now, this is not technically part of the limbic system, but it is crucial in modulating our emotions. It handles high order processing like decision making. It's our executive functioning. It helps us in social behaviors, emotional regulation, and has a strong interaction with the limbic system. All of these parts work together to keep us alive and thriving. But here's the problem. We have a 300,000-year-old operating system that hasn't been upgraded to today's modern world. And as a result, this can cause our emotions to act like a liability in achieving what we want in life. Fortunately, there is a patch that you can apply, and I like to call it the art of emotional control. Emotional control is the ability to manage and regulate your emotions, particularly in challenging or stressful situations. Emotional control involves recognizing your feelings, understanding their impact, and then choosing how to respond in ways that align with your goals and your values. When you master emotional control, you can navigate life with greater composure, you can make more thoughtful decisions, and you can improve your relationships with others and yourself. The skill reduces impulsive reactions, enhances resilience, and it helps us maintain a positive outlook, ultimately leading us to a more fulfilling personal and professional relationship with others. Life is full of temptations, stress, and difficulties, and it's super easy to feel overwhelmed. And when we do, we tend to make decisions based on exhausted, tired emotions rather than what's truly beneficial to our lives. Our impulse to lash out, to shut down, or to give into the temptation of what's easier keep us tied to our addictions and our subpar lives. However, if you can learn to master your emotions, then you can improve your life and how you interact with others. Mastering our emotions involves three key components: impulse control, resisting the urge to react immediately instead of pausing to think before you act. The second one is stress management, staying calm under pressure and finding ways to cope with the stress without feeling overwhelmed. And then there's resilience, the ability to bounce back from setbacks and to maintain a balanced emotional state, even when things are really difficult. Now, I want to give you some practical ways that you can begin to use the art of emotional control. Let's first talk about impulse control. Let's say you're trying to lose weight, and then all of a sudden your wife makes a batch of her world famous chocolate chip oatmeal cookies, and there they are staring you in the face saying, "Come on, eat me, eat me." And your brain starts to crave the sweets because back in the day when we were hunter-gatherers, sweets were hard to come by, but they provided essential energies that we needed to survive. Sweet things gave our ancestors energy to stay alert and active, and high-calorie foods helped them store fats for when times were lean and food was scarce. But today, we don't need to worry about starvation or a lion attacking us. Still, the impulse is there. The best practice for impulse control is delayed gratification. We have an ability to override our impulses with willpower, but willpower is often weak because we haven't practiced using it. Willpower is the ability to see past short-term instant gratification and predict future success. For example, you sit down to do your work and you feel the impulse to load up a video game instead. Now, the video game gives you instant dopamine. It feels good. It scratches that itch. The ability to override this comes from thinking it through. In other words, what's going to serve us best. Thinking into the future about our goals and dreams can help us resist the impulse to seek short-term pleasure for higher reward in the long term. When I'm tempted to eat that cookie, I call up an image about how I want to look in a nice tailored shirt. And by focusing on that image, I also get a hit of dopamine, but without compromising my waistline. Next, let's talk about stress management. Man, our lives are stressful. There are bids for attention coming at us left and right. The things that we want to do versus the things that we have to do. Paying bills, meeting our boss's expectations, the kids needing new shoes, and taking out the trash. All these things pile up and can cause us to be a big, huge ball of stress. And it's in times of stress that we have difficulty with willpower and impulse control. It's easy to say, screw it, and eat the cookie when you're feeling deprived of any pleasure in life. Now, we can't get rid of the stress, but we can learn to manage it. The impact of stress happens in our thoughts as expectations. Expectations are the belief of what is expected of us and others. And when reality doesn't line up to our expectation, our bodies produce the stress hormone cortisol. Shuts down parts of the brain that aren't necessary for immediate survival. And guess what it's going to shut down? The prefrontal cortex, part of your brain that's responsible for logic and decision making. So when we're stressed, we get into this feedback loop of frustration. My brain isn't working at its full capacity, and cortisol, it's just doing its job, trying to keep you alive. Because if a bear is attacking you, you need to act swiftly and instinctually. And anytime we see a threat in our lives, our brain goes into survival mode, and that can tend to work against us. So it's really important that we have ways to release stress and metabolize the cortisol. Meditation, yoga, mindfulness practices, these are all great ways to manage stress. But I want to give you something you can do in the moment next time you're feeling stressed. It is stop and make a plan. One of my favorite quotes is by Abraham Lincoln, who said, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I'll spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe." Planning is a key to stress management. Take a break and make a plan. Sharpen the axe. Once you have a plan, then execute the plan. Write down all the things that you have to do on a list and then come up with a plan. When I'm feeling stressed, one of my favorite ways to deal with that is to make a plan using the Eisenhower matrix. It's taking your list of things to do and dividing them into 4 parts or quadrants. Quadrant number 1 is things that are important and urgent. You want to act on these. Quadrant number 2, important but not urgent. Schedule these. Quadrant number 3 are urgent but not important. You want to delegate those. And then finally, quadrant 4 is not important, not urgent, and you just want to delete those. By taking the time to write the list, divide it into those 4 parts, and then execute, you're not only going to get a lot done, but you're going to move through things quickly. The third key to emotional control is resilience. Resilience is the ability to bounce back after you've had a setback. Our emotions keep us stuck in disappointment and discouragement, and they prevent us from moving forward towards our goals and our dreams. A setback and a discouragement, those are part of life. But if you have resilience and if you learn to exercise the muscle of resilience, you can get back up and fight again. For me, one of the most important things I can do in building resilience is knowing my why. Why am I doing this in the first place? Why is this important to me? Why did I start? When I'm faced with setbacks, it's really easy for me to forget my why. For example, one of my biggest whys is my daughter. Now, she has a developmental disability and she's not going to be able to take care of herself in the long run. I'm building a future for her so that I know she's taken care of, and that is my biggest motivation. Another why that I have is I want others to experience the same freedom and confidence that I've gained through men's work. Between these 2 motivations, I spend my days focusing on helping others while also working towards securing a future for my daughter. And the thing is, your why has to be really big. It has to be really important so that when you are faced with setbacks, you can keep going. I have to keep producing content. I have to keep writing books. I have to keep coaching others so that I can help them understand their why and build resilience in their lives. In summary, emotional control is a very powerful skill that you can learn and will transform your life. When you master self-awareness, self-regulation, and resilience, you can navigate life's challenges with greater ease and purpose. Master self-awareness by recognizing your emotions and understanding their triggers. Learn to self-regulate, use mindfulness and reflections, and create plans that you can execute that keep you focused and on task. And then remember, emotional control is not about suppressing your feelings, but it's about harnessing them to create more fulfilling, balanced lives. Thanks again for taking the time to watch this video. Unless, of course, you're listening to it on one of your favorite podcast platforms. Thanks for listening. And if you like this video, check out the one I did on the power of responsibility, moving from victim to victor with masculine integrity. I'll put a link right up here. And let me know what you think in the comments. How are you with emotional control? What areas do you get stuck in? Let me know. I'll try to help you. And thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time.